Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Can you all hear me? Okay, yeah, we're good. I just have a mess of wires that I need to deal with. Goodness gracious. Anyway, so yeah, I'm working on adding difficulty levels to Alchemortis. We could call it an Ascension-like system. Probably not going to call it exactly that, because we don't want to be, we don't want to copy Slay the Spire too much. Although I guess, I don't know, somebody told me that Slay the Spire's Ascension system is from something else. So anyway, we will call it something else, but I've been working on that, and I'll show you everything that I've got going there in just a second. But first, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wish listing. So if you're interested, you can check out the Steam page, give the game a wish list. It's a dark fantasy roguelike auto battler. And yeah, we will have a Steam page refresh coming very soon, I hope. So yeah, I'm getting tired of looking at this one, but we're gonna have something good, I think, relatively soon. And what else? You could also support me on Patreon if you're interested in supporting the development of Alchemortis. All the support helps, but if you support at the $15 a month tier for at least 1 month here, I'm going to send you an Alchemortis Steam key when the game launches, and I will put your name in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So definitely consider doing that if you are interested, of course. But you can also check out my Udemy courses. These are a great way to support me and also a great way to learn how to build games in the Godot engine. You can also like and subscribe, follow on Twitch, join the Discord, all that good stuff. Okay. Hello, Celestial Beagle. Welcome back. Good to see you. Clickertail, welcome. Good morning, Sora. Hello, Wooius. Welcome. The word Ascension is used in many things. Gotcha. Okay. So anyway, so we'll have to figure out like what language we're going to use exactly, but so I started setting up the difficulty tiers here, I think on stream yesterday. I was mostly working on the elite enemies, but I've got 7 different tiers now. And these are pretty, like, for the most part, these are minor modifiers that when added all together should add quite a bit of challenge. So tier 1, elite enemies appear in the world. Tier 2, all blood costs are increased by 25%. Tier 3, items have a higher chance of being corrupted during alchemy. Tier 4, only 50% of maximum health is restored after combat. Tier 5, enemies are stronger. That's just a straight multiple on the enemy strength. Tier 6, fog of war visibility is reduced, so you could see less far ahead. And then tier 7 is there are fewer interconnected roads in the world. So there's a lot of different things we could do for all these difficulty tiers, but I think, I want to get to at least 10, so I need 3 more. And yeah, we'll have to think about that, but rules of the internet, everything is a remix of a remix. Hello, Artem. Welcome back. Good to see you. Emerson, good to see you. Good morning, Ninja Link. Alrighty. So anyway, I was focusing on figuring out how to get the difficulty selection UI actually looking. So I've drawn like these little, if it would load, I've drawn like these little difficulty selection statue kind of things. I've also removed like all the decorations from this screen as well because it was too crowded with the fog of war. And so I initially experimented with making this like a separate screen. So I actually had a screen where the player character would run up the road here, and then the camera would pan upwards, and then the character would then be in the center of a circular layout of all these difficulty options here. But that just wasn't working, and it adds too many clicks to start a run and everything. So I think I'm going to try to get everything on this screen, and this is going to have to work for, if I have like 8 or 10 characters, all those things are going to need to be doable here as well. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to figure it out, but I'm gonna try to stuff everything onto this one screen. And of course we have to handle the unlocks for these things as well, but we'll worry about that later. So the main thing here is I actually need to get these functional so that they actually change the difficulty level based on what you selected. I also need to figure out how to handle the unlock state for these different Ascension levels. I mean, I think it's simple in practice. I just need to figure out like how to display these things. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on. Hello, Joaquin. Good to see you. Welcome. Difficulty 10, boss health resets when defeated the first time. Oh, so like double health pool. That could be a good one. Hello, Julio. How about a tier with penalties for health and decreasing health over time? That could work as well, yeah. Oh, also I got the new font updated, so I posted in the Discord yesterday, but for those of you who are not aware of the font saga, I was a little bit in a pickle because the font that I had been using for the game for all the playtests did not support the non-English Latin characters. So, languages like French and Spanish wouldn't be properly supported. And so I was like, well, I have to find an alternate font. So I started looking everywhere for fonts. I bought several fonts and nothing quite looked right. I mean, I found a font that was okay, and it was like, I could live with this if this was in the game. But I ended up sending an email to the creator of the original font that I was using, and I said, hey, any chance you could add, you know, the accented character support to the font? And fortunately for me, that author updated it and sent me back the font file and said, here you go, here's all the updates. And then that author also made a different version of the font. And so I don't think the font, I think, so the thing about this font that I got is I got it from like some kind of bundle a while ago. And this author of these fonts no longer has this version available for download anywhere. So as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person, well, I'm the second person on Earth to ever have a variation of this font that has the extended character set. Anyway, that's kind of interesting, but I can show you who the font artist is if you're interested. So the artist is Chevy Ray. ChevyRay.itch.io, and this super soft font here. So the font that I'm using is called Soft Square. It's now called Soft Square 2, which is the updated version. But this artist, at the same time that they updated Soft Square for me, they made a modification to Soft Square called Super Soft, which is basically the same font except it's got some minor differences. So this one is actually free. So you can head on over to ChevyRay.itch.io. If you're interested, you could download that super soft font. But like I said, I think I'm the only person with this soft square variation, besides, you know, obviously the author, which is kind of cool. So anyway, I thought that was really neat that the author of the font did that. And so now we're good to go. We can keep using the font that everyone loved. Yeah, it's free to download, so yeah. Hello, Royal Munjask, welcome back. Am I losing my mind, or is your background color on your profile image changing every time you come into the stream? I swear, like, your background for your profile image was like blue or green or something yesterday. But welcome back. Anyway. So we got to figure out how to do all these things. So I have an unselected and a selected variation here. So this is going to be a little bit weird. This is going to have to behave a little bit differently compared to the rest of my... It was different yesterday? Okay, so I'm not going insane. That's good. Every time you pop in, it's like I recognize the face, the character in the profile image, but the background color is different like every time I see you. Anyway. So this is going to be a little bit different because for the difficulty selection, I think what I want to do is, like, if you have all 7 unlocked, you should be able to just click on this one and all of these will light up. Right? And then if I click on this one, it should like deselect all of these ones and select that one, right? So I don't think that's going to be super hard. The problem is my clickable control doesn't really have a concept of like what's selected and deselected. And I may not need to do that. So maybe I'll just let's just stub out some methods here. Select, deselect. We'll probably want to read in what the last selected option was as well, but that's okay. Node, private sprite 2D. Unselected, node, private sprite 2D selected. I wasn't expecting anyone to notice it. Oh, well, the lesson here is that Firebelly is not gaslightable, I guess. let's see. We also need some kind of label here. Let's do label. We're just going to guesstimate the positions of everything. Difficulty. I'm going to have to handle translation, so I got to be really careful with this stuff too. Translations are another thing that I have to think about. UI difficulty. Maybe we'll just do UI difficulty 1 or something. UI difficulty 1. Translation partial generator. I'm going to do this. This is going to seem like overkill, but I'm going to do this anyway. Generate difficulty tiers partial. I know that this seems like overkill, but if I add difficulty tiers, I don't want to have to worry about updating a translation file manually. And this is actually good because I need to take the descriptions out of these difficulty tiers and put those in the translation as well. So maybe what I should do is I should do something like public string translation key. And then this would be difficulty tier. Difficulty tier description. We'll be explicit. We'll say description translation key. Okay, so we'll generate these things. So let's create a list of entries. Oops. For each var tier in difficulty tiers, get we'll just create a publicly accessible thing. Create a publicly accessible thing that returns a new list so we're not passing it around by reference. ID, description translation key, text description, and then we also want to do an entry dot add new POE entry, difficulty tier name, I guess. And just call this difficulty. Partial, en, difficulty tiers, difficulty tier translations. Okay. En, base. Here we go. Okay, so then we're going to want a public void set tier, int tier. We are going to want to change this label text. Let's center that. So UI difficulty 1. So this is going to be, let's grab a reference to the label, private label, label.text. Actually, I wonder if I should just make this Difficulty tier entry. Maybe I'll make this a difficulty tier entry. We're gonna do label.text. Oh, let's do public string name translation key. Right. And we'll change this here. ID is equal to tier.name translation key. Maybe I should move that text. I don't know. Anyway, label.text is equal to tier entry.name translation key. All right, then we also want to add this as a visibility toggle target. Okay, let's generate those translations now. Translations are kind of annoying. It adds like an extra step of things to do. What was this called? This was called UI. Oh, wait. Difficulty tier. That's fine. So this will be difficulty tier. Okay, now the problem here, though, is that I need to do description utils. Shoot. Translate this, and then my params would be description utils.to Roman numeral tier entry.tier. All right, I'm gonna need to store this tier entry too. So there's a little bit of an annoying thing with the translation system, which is that if you're just using the translation key on the label text, that works fine. But I have situations where I actually need to replace the text that's inside of, so like for instance, that translation file that got generated, there are placeholder strings here that need to be replaced at runtime. So for example, with this to Roman numeral. Now I guess what I could do is I could just make that part of the raw string. That might be easier actually. But there are situations where I need to do this, and so the problem is that if the player switches their language during runtime, anywhere where I need to do that, this format description here and replace some things in the string, I actually need to listen for that notification and force an update of the language for everywhere that's not just using the raw translation key. So that's going to be a little bit annoying. But I'm going to change this a little bit. We're just going to store the name directly in the translation and make that a little bit more easy. Okay, so now we don't have any strings in that file. And I don't know if languages like Chinese work well with Roman numerals or not. So maybe just making that part of the raw translation file is better. Because then the whole string can just be changed for whatever reason. Time for game dev Ascension once again. Yes, indeed. Hello, Jackie Daytona. To avoid the major translations, you could use famous references like the 9 Circles of Hell or something like that. Yeah, that would work. Hello, Dessa Dev. What's your VS Code theme? Dracula. Classic Dracula. I don't remember this nice font. The font is Cascadia Code. It's Microsoft's font. I really like Cascadia Code. I've been using it for many years now. I'm a big fan of the font ligatures. I know that a lot of people don't like them, but I think it makes the code look real nice. Okay, we'll come up with better names for those things, but there's our description translations, and then if I go to my difficulty option, we can see that that works. So now we can just use the translation label there. And I think that's okay. And do I need to store that tier entry? I don't think so. Anyway, we're gonna also do selected.visible is equal to false. Cool. All right. So selected.visible is equal to true. And maybe I'll just call deselect here. The visible equals false. Okay. Probably don't need that. Okay, so the character select now, when I do the setup options here, we're going to do this instead. We're going to do difficulty tiers. Let's actually pass in a list of difficulty tier here. List difficulty tiers dot difficulty tier entry difficulty tiers. So here we'll just pass in that list of tiers, and then this will be var num options is equal to difficulty tiers dot count. Okay, so place difficulty option. I wonder why it did this. Claude wrote this circular distribution code for me, so I don't know why it made these decisions, but that's okay. Because the way that I'm placing those things in the character select is basically they're being placed along an arc in the circle, and it's like super janky the way that I'm doing it, but I wanted them to kind of like smoothly arc around, but that requires quite a large circular radius. So what I did is I just took a marker here, this difficulty center marker. It's way down here. So this is the origin point around how those things get distributed. And so I was just like running the game and seeing like, oh, that position's not right. And so I just like move it down a little bit and try it again. It's like a 600 unit radius or whatever. I'm sure there's an easier way to do that, and then I can control how far apart in degrees all of those options are, as well as define a center gap for the road. So that way they get distributed along the top edge of the circle with a gap in the middle for the road. And that's basically how it works. So, hey, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? Love ligatures too, they give this nice touch. Okay, so anyway, those are good. But now I have to assign the difficulty tier correctly. So var option index is equal to 0. We'll just put place difficulty option. We need to put the tier in here. So let's do difficulty tiers dot tier entry. We're going to do difficulty tier option index, difficulty tier option index. So it's a little bit wonky, but we call set tier in here. That's going to update the label. And then we could see how that looks. Oh, it's not even close to being in the correct order. Okay. All right. Oh, I want to do the left count first. I think that's probably what's going on. And now it's reverse. Oh, it's going this way. Okay. Well, there's a nice hacky way of doing this, which would be easier, but let's see. Let's just, Let's do this. Left option index. This is going to be so bad. Left count -1. Left option index. Or maybe we could just do left count and just subtract it first. I don't know which is more appropriate, but that's okay. Okay, and then we're going to do var right option index is equal to 0. And we'll change this to right option index. Is that going to do what I want it to do? Hello, Snubbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciated. Thank you, thank you. With the message yummers. Always appreciated. Thank you. Welcome back. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So the nice thing about this, though, is that as I add difficulty tiers, they will just be distributed properly along this arc. So if I have 10, so there's 7 here. So if I have 10, it will add an extra 1 on this side, and there will be 5. And then it will add an extra 2 on this side, and it'll be 5 there. But it should be perfectly symmetrical as well. So this is not symmetrical because there's an odd number, and so I had it created such that, you know, it properly spaces them all the way up to the point where the road gap is, and then it does the same on the right side, so it looks like a nice continuation of the arc from left to right. So I think that's fine. I may actually... I might move everything down a little bit, but we can worry about the positioning later. This whole screen is a mess. I want to delete these fog of war canvas layers. The light canvas layer... yeah, that one's fine. Hello, Kelso. What's wrong? What's wrong? Option dot clicked plus equals on difficulty option clicked. Actually, I'm probably going to want to do this. On difficulty option clicked tier entry. Oh, did I spell this wrong? This is wrong. Trying to think of how I want to do this. Let's do a dictionary of difficulty tier to option. difficulty tier to option, tier entry dot tier is equal to option. Okay. Actually, do I want to do that? I don't think I want to do that. So I'm just trying to think of like, I want the highlighting to work in a certain way. So let's do difficulty options. I need to store these in a list. And then I'll sort that later, but let's just do difficulty options.add there. And then we need to do difficulty options is equal to difficulty options.order by option dot. Actually, do I have the, can I get the index in this? There was, oh, I can't get the index. Did you miss me, Firebelly? I miss all of my viewers. I miss all of my viewers and chatters. Okay. Let me just ask. I'm going to be lazy here. Oh, wait. I don't even know what I'm doing. My brain is not working today, I guess. This dot tier entry is equal to tier entry. All right, we finally got it. Okay, so those are ordered in the array now. So I'm going to want something like hover state for tier int tier if tier entry dot tier if tier is less than or equal to tier, then we want to do selected dot visible is equal to true. So we could do selected dot visible is equal to less than or equal to tier. Public void update state for tier. I don't know if this is going to be the best way of doing this, but this is the same logic though. Let's just store an integer for now. Selected difficulty tier. Oh, I need a way of clearing the tiers too. Oh, man. Why is this tiny little thing presenting so many UX problems? Okay, we're going to do selected difficulty tier is equal to tier entry. Private void update difficulty option states int for tier. Okay, so we're going to do update difficulty option states for selected difficulty tier. But now we need to do private void on difficulty option hover entered. Update difficulty option states for that. Private void on difficulty option hover exited. Okay. Option dot hover entered plus equals that hover exited. This one can just be that. Okay, so we're obviously not handling the situation where if I don't have the tiers unlocked. But you can see that when I hover over all these things and I select that one, those stay locked. But then if I do this, that's a little bit janky, I suppose. Maybe I'll just make that smoother. I think I can do that. So let's go to the difficulty option here. I need to be able to see the reference rect. I think the way to do this, where is editor only? Here. I think the way to do this is just to narrow the gap here. I think it's okay if they overlap each other a little bit. I just don't like how that flicker is happening because there's a gap here. Actually, you know what I may do instead? I like the visual gap being the way that it is. I'll add that gap manually in here. So, I don't know, let's just call it transform position plus 8. Let's do that. Okay, so now we've got some overlap, but I guess the overlap doesn't need to be that big. Let's take 7 off of that. Just try to center it to the best of my ability there. Yummers. Hello, Junie. Welcome. Good to see you. Oh, there's like a tiny gap there. Fudge. Okay. So now I should have a very nice and smooth. There's no flickering while I'm hovering over these things, and I just select that one. Maybe these ones need to be darker, I don't know. Actually, you know what I could do? Maybe this like statue part here, maybe that doesn't appear. Maybe it's just, well, I was thinking it could just be the platform and then those things would pop in when you select the difficulties. But I was actually thinking the empty platforms could be used as placeholders for the not unlocked Ascension tiers. I mean, it could be something as simple as like add a particle effect or something. Guess we don't really need to worry about it now, but okay, so that's working. Let's figure out how to get that selected difficulty option into the run config now. Which I think like this character selected event handler, connect to character selected, change to run. So let's actually change this. Let's do character selection finished. We're going to pass the character definition resource. We'll also pass the difficulty tier. Yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to do emit character selection finished. Is there a reason why that's not working? Oh, event handler. Okay, so int difficulty tier equals difficulty tier. Oh, it's just called difficulty. I'll just be consistent. I'll rename that to difficulty tier there. Okay. So on character selected, connect to character selection finished, on character selection finished, and that will pass in the difficulty tier there. All right. So we should be able to see very easily if this works. Let's turn off skip menu. I notice you mix a lot of control nodes with Node2D IDK, but isn't this like frowned upon in Godot? I don't know why it would be frowned upon. You know, because like when I'm using a control node in this situation, I'm not using it for layout purposes. I'm using it for mouse event handling purposes. So I don't really want to lay out the visuals as control nodes because those come with their own quirks. So I just create a bounding box, which is like the mouse area. And then I just set up my visuals as Node2Ds because it's easier to do that, right? So I do that. I mean, I think, yeah, it's generally a bad idea if you're trying to do a UI layout to use like sprites and Node2Ds because those don't flow with containers and everything. But yeah, I'm not using control nodes for layout purposes here. I'm using them for input handling purposes. And so the underlying visuals like almost don't really matter. What matters is that those control nodes are, like I said, used for input handling. Hello, Nerd Chomp. Welcome. Do you have tips for how you make a platformer game? I don't have any tips. I mean, I think, you know, beyond the usual things like, you know, you have to implement coyote time and everything. Like there is a bunch of invisible things that happen in platformers that make the game feel better. You don't want to have the character feel too floaty. You don't want to be want to have the character feel too slidey. But I don't really have that much experience making platformer games, so that makes sense. Yeah, thanks, man. You're welcome. I can't believe I missed the live stream. I'm also implementing an Ascension mode in my game. Would have been great to see your implementation idea. I mean, the implementation is very, very straightforward, actually. I've got a difficulty tiers set up here where I'm basically just registering all the different tiers as tier entries here. And they have a description and they have the tier that they're associated with. And then what I basically have is a bunch of methods here that are just like, they are plain English language versions of like what modifier is active. So like, is combat healing reduced? And the reason I add this in here is because if I ever want to change the order of the tiers, I don't have to change any of the other code that's calling is combat healing reduced, right? I just change it here. If I was doing this difficulty check directly in that spot where combat healing needs to be reduced, then I would need to update several files if I were to reorder this, right? But just putting those methods in the middle here makes it so that if I reorder something, it doesn't matter. And then is combat healing reduced? It's really as simple as just saying like, hey, if difficulty tiers is combat healing reduced, then just set the percentage of healing differently. It's really that simple. I mean, that difficulty tier is 2 lines, or, you know, whatever, 3 lines, right? It's the tier entry, it's the method to check if it's active, and then it's the, just wherever the player gets healed, just check that value. And that's true of most of these tier things, actually. Is corruption chance increased, right? So this is in one other spot. Is corruption chance increased? Get corruption chance. Oh, we just changed the base chance of the divisor if that's available, and that's it. So it's really not, you know, there's not really that much of an implementation. It's just a matter of like changing the places in the code that are necessary. Like, is fog of war visibility reduced, right? Same thing. Fog reveal distance is 3 plus -1 if fog of war visibility is reduced. And then everywhere where I read that fog of war reveal distance, it's there, right? The most in-depth one here is this elite enemies enabled, because this actually changes how the map gets generated with patrol flags. So that one is the most in-depth one, but everything else is pretty straightforward. Is road count reduced? This one is just changing edge keep chance. 50% minus 15% if that's enabled. It's that simple. It's not anything too much. If you're wondering, are the Godot courses Firebelly sells worth it? Wonder no more. They are. Thank you. I appreciate that, Monkey Software. How do you stay so focused and productive while you stream? I feel like if I streamed, I would get nothing done. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, a lot of people will come into the stream and they'll be new and they'll be like, what the heck? This guy doesn't check the chat. And it's because like, if I do get into the zone for like 10 or 15 minutes, I'll just let myself be in that zone. I don't feel necessarily a constant pressure to check the chat when I'm like actively working on something. But the other answer to that question too is like, I'm never really doing anything that's that difficult on stream. I usually don't do like big overhaul or architectural changes or trickier things on stream because I need to be able to focus more on those. But if I generally have an idea of what I'm doing, then I'll do that on stream because it doesn't require as much focus from me. You know what I mean? Or stuff like art, you know, like art is something that's pretty easy to do on stream because it doesn't require focus in the same way that like programming a new system does. It's really cool. Thanks for the overview. You're welcome. Yeah. I had something like that in mind, but I need to think about how it affects the save system in my case. Yeah. Save systems. Classic save systems. So let's see if I can check some of these things. So let's just set it to difficulty tier 3, and we'll select brittle bones here, and we'll go. And so I should be able to see that this has a much higher corruption chance. 75% chance to be corrupted, and then this alchemy cost should be 6. And then I should see patrol flags as well. Yeah. So that difficulty selection is working. If I abandon the run, and I go back to start, and I select, let's just do difficulty 1. I should only see the patrol flags, but this should not be 75%. It's not. And this should be 5. That's correct. But I should still see the patrol flags. Yeah. So we're good. So that, the data is getting where it needs to be. That's good. So now we just have to work really on like the unlock part of it, and then also making it look nicer. But the functionality is all there, and it's translated and everything, or it's got at least translation support. Hello, Finseef, welcome. Difficulty 4 may not be that impactful. One of the characters already doesn't restore health. I wonder if there's a way to implement that. That also affects all the other characters. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I mean, part of me is like okay with it. Like if there are certain characters where the difficulty just doesn't affect them, that could be a strategic choice, right? But maybe. I mean, it could be something else too. It could be like lose 10% of maximum health at the start of every combat, something like that. But then that would disproportionately affect the character that doesn't heal, right? Because they would just be taking this constant damage. So I think the problem with that character is that it's kind of not possible to change the healing mechanics without affecting that character in some way, or not affecting that character in some way. You know what I mean? So maybe the character needs to be redone. I'm not sure. Are you meant to be able to select nothing like difficulty 0? Yeah, that's something I have to think about too. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Lost 1 max health for every space you visit. Yeah, that could work. That could work for sure. Maybe make difficulty 1 the base difficulty and make it auto-select if nothing is selected. Yeah, that might be the way to do it. I'll have to rework some things, but that might be the way to do it. There's a lot to do with this still. I think it's fine. It's just a peculiarity of the character. I feel like the difficulty level should be more of a challenge than a punishment. Difficulty tier idea. What about +1 card in the enemy board per artifacts held by the player? That might work. The problem is the enemy boards are already pretty much random, so I don't know if that's going to be a super noticeable change. But yeah, I think it's a good one to consider. Anyway, we got to do all this other stuff too, so maybe I should add in selecting the default difficulty. The problem is that's going to throw off my whole symmetry, because if I want 10 or 20 difficulty levels, and I've got an extra one for the base difficulty, I could just make it that if you click on this again, it deselects it, right? Would that work? Aspergiles. Anyway. Work. Work on difficulty tier UI. Would you consider an online auto battle system like the one in He Is Coming, where you fight with save sets from other players? That's not going to be in the game at launch, no. I mean, if the game is like wildly successful, then maybe I'll do that as like an update and say like, hey, now you can play against other players' builds, but no, that's out of scope for the release. Okay, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we've got some more stuff to work on here. I don't know how I'm going to support selecting the default difficulty, but we can figure that out. Support unlocking difficulty, save difficulty to save file. Yeah, so I'm going to need to do that. Anyway, I'll be right back in just 3 minutes, and we will continue on. Okay, I'm back. I mean, instead of clearing every selection with mouse exit tiers without a click, then auto toggle first tier would work, wouldn't it? Maybe double check when launching the run. I mean, I think making it just like a toggle would be all right. So let's see. Well, maybe we could just do that now. I think maybe that will be possible. So I should be able to just do if selected difficulty tier is equal to tier entry dot tier. We're going to do selected difficulty tier is equal to mathf dot max of 0, selected difficulty tier -1. Okay, let's see if that works. So I select this one, select it, that deselects it. So I can click on an already on one to remove it, and if I click on this one and then click on that again. So that's a little bit awkward because I have to click there and then click again to untoggle it. But I think that's all right. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Can improve the UX later, but the most important thing is that I can turn that off and then I can start the run. Oops. Just make sure that that starts with difficulty 0. The other thing is I need to show a list of all of the modifiers. I don't know how to do that one. But let's just select some of these and then close that. Okay, and then go. And we should see no patrol flags because it's difficulty 0. Perfect. Okay. So I think that's working. Now we need to work on the unlocks. Hello, David. Should I create inventory like GUI, control node, or game world? Each tutorial says different things. Thank you. I don't know why you would do the inventory as anything other than a control node, but maybe I'm missing something. So I think there's a couple of ways to do it. So I'm kind of doing both, actually. Maybe I should take back what I said. So my board here, actually my board is not even a control node. But I was thinking more like an inventory, like a Minecraft kind of style inventory where, or, you know, any kind of like RPG inventory where you open up a panel and then there's like cells in it. I think if you're, let me think about this. So if you're going to do like an RPG or Minecraft style inventory, you obviously want to use control nodes for the layout and positioning of those things. But then what you do for the individual grid cells, there's a couple of options. There are grid containers, right? So you can do like a grid container, and then you can put like individual like texture rects underneath that to represent all of your grid cells. And then the texture rects can become the things that listen for your mouse inputs when you want to move things around in your inventory, right? But again, that's assuming you're doing a kind of Minecraft style inventory where one item always fits into one cell, right? You don't have like a Path of Exile style inventory or an Alchemortis style inventory where one item can take up multiple spaces, right? So if it's just like, you know, you're doing a survival crafting game and you've got all your like individual items and they all fit into one cell, you could do like a grid container with texture rects to represent each cell position and then use that, hook into those mouse events to detect like when things get clicked and moved and whatnot. But for something that's more of like a grid, like Alchemortis, where you can have differently sized items that are being placed on the grid, the approach that I've taken at least is I actually use a tile map layer where each cell is part of the tile map. And then I just detect, the way I detect like what cell the mouse is over is I essentially just like say, okay, what is the top left corner of that grid, which in this case would be like here, right? And then I just take the local position of the mouse in that area and divide it by the cell size to get the cell coordinates, right? So if my mouse is here and I divide that, in my case, the tile size is 18. If I divide that position by 18 and round it down, that's going to give me a cell position of 0, 0, right? But if my mouse position over here is like 24 and then less than 18 in the Y, if I divide that by 18 and round it down, that's going to give me 1 in the X, right? And so that's how I do that. So there's a bunch of valid ways of doing it. I think it largely depends on the requirements of your game. I think the grid container option is easier for a Minecraft style inventory, whereas like this tile map way of doing things may be easier for a game where you're gonna like play Tetris with your inventory, right? Are RPGs viable? Generally speaking, yes. Obviously. Which is why I guess what you're asking is probably, are they viable to make as a small developer or a solo developer? I think so. I mean, you just have to be a little bit more, like, it can't be a sprawling open world RPG with like multiple branching stories, right? But you can certainly make a small scale RPG. I mean, you know what comes to mind, honestly? That old Flash game. I don't know if it was technically Flash, but the old Flash game Stick RPG, right? Anyone play that? Anyone play that? Am I old? But in that game, you just played as a little stick man, and you walked around this tiny little town that had like 4 or 5 points of interest, and you would just go into the bar and get into bar fights to increase your strength, or you'd go to the school to increase your intelligence or whatever, and then you'd go to work to make some money, and then you'd like upgrade your house or whatever. But it was a very, very, very simple game, but it was an RPG, you know? It had stats and everything, and like your character that you play as, and I don't remember if there was like customization or everything, but there was a definite progression path and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, you can't make like an Elden Ring level action RPG as a small developer, but you can certainly make something more on the order of Stick RPG, right? Or if you're a genius prodigy, you can make Stardew Valley or Undertale. I don't know if people would consider those RPGs though. Probably Undertale is not an RPG. Stardew Valley is a little bit more RPG-esque, I guess. But as with anything, you know, the definitions are a little bit vague, so. Stick RPG was awesome. It was. I remember playing that game for a while. Yes, it was. Okay, anyway, so we need to support unlocking difficulties. How am I going to do this? It's a forge inventory. When you have 20 options and click an item that you want to craft, it's a list. Sorry, my bad English. No, that's okay. Yeah, so it's just a list of options, then yeah, using control nodes for that is probably the way to go. Yeah, that's true. That's why I said if you're a prodigy, which probably does not apply to any of us here, so it's almost not even worth mentioning. It's almost like saying like, hey, if you want to play basketball, just be Michael Jordan, right? It's like, no, that's not actionable advice. Anyway. We like to call those kinds of games the exceptions that prove the rule, right? Okay, anyway, let's see. I need to figure out how to actually work in this unlock system. Actually, maybe it'll be easier. Do I have the difficulty level saved? I do, okay. I'm actually going to rename this to difficulty tier. just to be a little bit clearer here. So I am already saving that, which is good. So we can do that. Don't show difficulty selection, so that's part of the unlock. Let's just move this one up. Okay. So let's look at our unlock model here. So there's a simple way to do this. Good morning, the malicious rabbit. Welcome back. So I need a couple of things here, actually. So run statistics, counters. Did I not implement these? Oh, cards acquired. Did I implement this one? Oh, I never did implement that one. That one's good. So this one is still unimplemented. So we got perfect runs, combat victories. Where am I storing? Let's see. Global statistics, runs won, runs lost. I may actually need to change this, how this is being stored. So this may actually runs won by tier. This will be a dictionary. This is why I'm not preserving your save files, by the way, is because I'll need to be able to change the layout. Runs won by tier. So we have this merge context here. Public required int difficulty tier. And I'll probably also want to do the same thing here. Dictionary int ulong runs lost by tier. On transition to run overview. Oh, I see. Okay, that's a little bit wonky, but that's all right. So this should be fine. So merge, run, save data. We've got the merge context, which contains the difficulty tier and whether it was a victory or not. And then, okay, so that should be fine. So let's rename this to runs 1 by tier, runs lost by tier. Hello, Lil Knock. Beginner to Godot here. I have a lot of experience with C#, but do you think it's worth learning Godot with GDScript or start right off the bat with C#? I think it's fine. If you already have experience with C#, the main issue that you're going to run into is like, and this is not so much of an issue anymore, but because the Godot documentation has C# snippets for most of like the code examples that they have, but there are some places where the C# way of doing things still isn't documented. So the biggest hurdle or the biggest problem you're going to run into if you use C# with Godot is like you may just not know how to do something in C# that's being shown in GDScript. But you have to figure that out anyway. Like if your ultimate goal is to get to a state where you're using C# with Godot, you're going to have to figure that out at some point, right? So I don't know if it's that big of a deal. The reason I usually don't recommend that beginners who don't have any C# experience or programming experience generally, I usually recommend that they don't start with C# because that just adds another difficulty curve on top of the already steep difficulty curve of learning an engine. But in your case, since you already know C#, I really don't think that you're going to have any problems with it. The bulk of your learning is going to be about like how to build games in the Godot way using the scene tree and the node system and signals, and all of that stuff is basically like one-to-one from GDScript to C#. So I would say, you know, whatever you're comfortable with. The other part of that too is that if you already know one language, you basically know them all, right? So like all the concepts are the same in GDScript, the syntax is just different. So maybe I shouldn't say all the concepts are the same because there are obviously features that are not present in GDScript compared to C#, but you know what I'm saying. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I think you're fine doing whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to use C#, use it, but you're also not going to have a hard time with GDScript, I don't think. And so it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to do. I wouldn't say there's an objectively good answer there. Fun Friday already. The transformer on the power line that feeds my house blew up. Had to get the fire department to come look at it. Now the city water and light is working on it. Very nice. I mean, not nice that it blew up, but the good thing is that they're on it, right? I had a garbage truck ripped down a power line to my house one time, and it took the power company like forever. It's like, I realize that it's just one line to one house, but like, come on, man. I need my electricity. What am I supposed to do without my electricity? The same thing happened, actually, funnily enough, another time with my internet line. Same exact thing happened. Garbage truck ripped the internet line off the house. And it took them like 3 days to come and fix it. I was like, guess who switched ISPs after that? This guy. Been pouring rain, so the fire isn't a big deal. Oh yeah, that's good. I've been going back and forth on it. C# is definitely much more verbose, but I'm obviously more comfortable with it. Yeah. C# has stuff that GDScript doesn't. Interfaces, reflection. Yep, I agree with that. Plus, you know, I mean, an underrated aspect of C# is that you get a lot of the NuGet packages, right? So like, as long as the NuGet package is compatible with, I don't know exactly how the Godot project is configured. I think it's configured as like a library or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but as long as the NuGet package is compatible with your project, you can pull that in and use it, no problems. Which is, I think, underrated. Actually, you know what I'd do? If there was like a very nice implementation of like JavaScript as a scripting language for Godot with NPM support and everything, man, I'd be all over that. I would be all over that. I'd be writing Alchemortis in JavaScript. But alas, I mean, I looked at this a while ago, there was an ECMAScript binding for Godot 3, but yeah, and you could use NuGet packages, but you had to set up all these like watchers and stuff, and like you had to go through all these steps to like rebuild the the JavaScript with the packages and everything. It was like, it was too much of a hassle. But and there were some weird things too. Like I actually downloaded it and tried it, and there was just like some weird autocomplete issues, or like you had to do certain things to like import packages and stuff. It was like, it was really weird. But I had a ton of internet issues. My old ISP had to talk to their support multiple times, and they finally said ordered a bucket truck to make sure they can't replace the faulty equipment. Jeez. Dude showed up in a regular van and had no idea what he was there for. He just wanted to check the modem. I hate that. I hate that. It's like, first of all, I'm the kind of guy, I use my own modem whenever I can, right? So it's like, I know it's not a modem problem, right? Because I'm not using your crappy refurbished $10 a month modem, right? And you know, they always try to do things like, oh, we're going to reset it from your end. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to turn my modem off and on remotely, and that's going to magically fix the problem that didn't get fixed when I manually turned the modem on and off? What are you talking about? It's like one of those Ron Swanson moments where it's like, I know more than you. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about networking, but I certainly know more than whoever answers the phone. Hated that ISP, yeah. I'm looking at Rust bindings. Nobody has seen a game as safe as mine will be. I feed the ISP fiber line directly into my router. No modem or intermediate router. Interesting. Unfortunately, I have an ISP where I think there's some kind of like encryption or something that happens on the fiber line that's coming in. I don't know exactly how it works, but you need like their proprietary modem to actually like get the connection properly. I think there's like hacks you can do, but it's just not worth it, you know. I still use my own router at least. My favorite feature of my current ISP is that if you try to call support, you have to talk to an automated agent. No matter what you say, the agent just wants to default to resetting your equipment. Yeah. I mean, the problem is that, you know, like, you have to imagine a majority of people are actually clueless about how all that stuff works. And like, so they have to default to like handling the like very base case, right? That's why IT is always like, you know, the meme of like, did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in? It's like, well, there's a non-zero portion of people out there who just don't think like, oh, my computer's having a problem. Let me just try a restart and see if it works, right? Let me check that the thing is actually plugged into the wall if it's not turning on, right? There are people that exist that don't go through those basic troubleshooting steps. And so I understand it, but it gets annoying when you're like, I know how to troubleshoot issues and I've done everything that I can do on my end, so there's an actual problem that needs to be fixed here, right? Optimum strictly obfuscates their connectivity between the fiber, so same thing, yeah. We tried to call about a billing question. It was like, are you having issues with your service? No, I'm going to reset your equipment to try and fix it. Mine just locks the connection to my MAC address, so I plug their SFP module into my equipment and it works. Oh, nice. Okay, anyway, this probably broke something, so let's see. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to create some helper methods in here. Let's do public ulong total runs 1. And then we're going to do basically just runs 1 by tier.values.sum. Let me guess, it can't sum ulongs. Or let me guess, if I change this to int, it will work, right? No? Oh, it doesn't work with ulong, does it? Probably using Yulong is a little bit overkill here, but okay. I need to update a lot of the unlock conditions. So for anyone that's watching right now who has played the playtest, how did you feel about the unlock pacing? Were you getting unlocks too quickly? I mean, my impression is that the unlocks were acquired too quickly, so I'm going to need to work on that, but because I want the unlock system to like meaningfully extend the replayability, if possible. There was something else that I wanted to do. Didn't really feel the unlocks. I just saw the unlocks were there every time I left a run, but it never really meant a whole lot to me. Yeah, I mean, that's a separate problem, right? But I didn't unlock most things quickly. Basically unlocked a new character every run. You can easily get them all in one sitting. Okay, so I'll make those more difficult to get. I mean, I think it was useful for the playtest to make them relatively easy, because that verified that the unlock system was working. But definitely for like release, I need to think about those. Discovered I unlocked almost everything after a few runs without knowing it. Yeah. I'll have to think about that. How to make the unlocks feel more exciting, impactful. There was something else that I was going to do. I can't remember. Oh, right. Perfect runs. I don't need to do this right now, but I was thinking maybe perfect runs. So a perfect run is a run that you beat without dying. I think it would be fun to track this per difficulty level, but it's just not necessary for the work that I'm doing now, so... Okay, anyway, so all of this setup stuff was basically... Oh, I'm not even... Okay. Actually, this should be... by difficulty tier. Okay. So now I need to actually add a way of unlocking difficulty tiers. So I think I might just make this easy on myself. JSON property name. Highest unlocked difficulty tier is equal to 0. Unlocks manager. The question is, do I want to define these tier unlocks as unlock resources? I mean, I probably should. I probably should just follow the pattern that I've set up here. The other option is just to basically do a brute force check in here. Because there's a part of me that thinks that implementing these tier unlocks as unlock resources would be a little bit overkill. So it would fit into this update unlock state very nicely, because then it would just be one of the resources that gets iterated over. But then I need to create an inherited class specifically for the difficulty tier, and I don't have a UI for showing the difficulty tiers. So I think I'll just do it the basic way. So data initializer, global statistics. Okay, let's do a ulong here. Get runs 1 at difficulty tier, tier entry dot tier -1. If tier entry dot tier is equal to 1, runs 1 at previous tier is greater than or equal to 3. Then we're going to say highest difficulty tier unlocked is equal to 1. else if, let's just make this tier entry.tier. Runs 1 at previous tiers greater than or equal to 1. Okay. And then we need to record this, right? So oh wait, why did I make this? I don't know why I did that actually. I was in ulong mode. I can't be bothered with that. Let's just do that. Okay. I think that will work. So we're going to require 3 victories before you unlock the first tier, and then it's just a matter of beating the game at that unlocking the next tier is going to require beating the game at least once at the previous tier. So if we're trying to unlock tier 1, we'll have to win at least 3 times. And then if we're at tier 2, it's just going to say, okay, you unlock tier 2 if you won at the previous tier, for example, at tier 1 more than 1 time. So I think that will be good. Yeah, I think that should be fine. One thing I think you're missing too is some pop-up or notification to say you did 5,000 poison, here's a new character. Yeah, I need to think about how to do that. 4 to 5 runs, no wins, and I had a few packs unlocked and had one necromancer unlocked if I remember correctly. Gotcha. Some flashing lights and bright colors are needed to extract maximum dopamine. Yeah, let me see if I have something written down for that. I don't care about this one, actually. Let's get rid of that one. So much work to do, but we'll get it done. Okay, let's make this public. Bool is difficulty tier unlocked. Int tier. Tiers less than highest unlocked difficulty tier. Okay. So in the character select now, what we can do is when we do setup options, what I can do is I can say if actually, how do I know if this is unlocked? Now I need to figure out how I can know if this is unlocked here. We'll just put it here. If num options is less than or equal to 0, we don't need this. We'll do if data initializer dot unlock model dot highest unlock difficulty tier is equal to 0. We're just going to return. So we're not going to show anything. We're not going to show anything. So let's do this. Let's do Let's turn off ignore save file. Ignore unlocks. Clear the save data, we'll go into the game. We'll see how it goes. 2 versions of scope creep. The scope you expand and the scope you never realized was there. Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. How often do you use AI when developing? To me, it's better than Googling random thoughts and digging through potentially outdated forums, but I'm worried I'm becoming reliant. I use, oh, those buttons are misaligned. Son of a biscuit. I use AI quite frequently, especially for doing like the rote things. Like, so when I was doing the translation stuff, I've got like over 100 abilities in the game that all needed to have their construction changed to support the translation system that I, well, the system on top of the translation system that I built. And so there were 2 options available to me. One option was to manually go and edit all 100 plus of those locations myself by hand, or the other option was do a few of them by hand and then tell Claude to do the rest of it. And so that's what I did. I set up like 10 or so of them just to set up the pattern. And then I said, Claude, hey, I've made the changes to these 10 abilities. Every other ability in the game needs to be changed in this way. Go do it. And that saved me a lot of time, right? Also, you know, I use it for planning like bigger refactors. Because the thing where the AI is really good at is like understanding what side effects are going to be there. Because it can just read in all the relevant context in your code base and say, okay, if you're going to make this architectural change here, that's going to affect X, Y, and Z place, you know? So I use it a lot for planning too, just to make sure that I'm catching all the situations. But what I try to do is like stay on top of the implementation, like the understanding of the implementation myself, right? So making sure that it's kind of flipping, right? So like instead of letting Claude design the solution, I design the solution first, and then I let Claude like find the edge cases and fill in the gaps, or like recommend changes to make it a little bit better. And then I'll read through the plan and I'll say, okay, I don't want you to do it that way. I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it so on and so forth. So that's kind of like that's how I use it. So I use it for the rote stuff, and then I use it for like helping to design and implement larger refactors. But I try to do that in a way where like I still have an understanding of what's happening. Like the code is still like being designed in the way that I would design it. So yeah, it's very useful. But yeah, there's definitely a situation you can get in where you rely on it too much and then you start losing your understanding of your own code base, right? And I don't want to be in that situation for sure, because that's going to be a nightmare. Okay, let's see if this unlock system works. So if I go to Alchemortis.json, oh, I don't have a save file. Okay. Let's generate a save file then. Brittle bones. Quit to menu. Okay. So I should have a save file now. Abandon that run. Okay. Close the game. So now I should have this Alchemortis JSON. Highest unlocked difficulty tier. Let's set this to 4. Now let's go back into the character select now. And so now I've got all these options. So the next step would be to like maybe show all the pedestals for all these options, but don't actually show the little statues until you actually have that unlocked. So that's going to be art related, so let me write that down. So that's done. Don't show difficulty selection until X amount of victories. That's done. Show only pedestals for difficulty tiers that are not yet unlocked. Okay. Goodness gracious. I'm definitely feeling the game's increasing complexity here. Anyway. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end the stream. I'm going to go eat some lunch. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. I'm basically just going to be spending this afternoon getting this all tightened up. There's still a lot of work to do on the game, but I've got a bunch of months left to do that. So I'm really hoping we can get to a situation soon where like everything, all the major systems are at least in place. Like I said, like we just got to finish the difficulty system. And then what else? The combat log still needs to be reworked a little bit. But then hopefully everything beyond that point will just be, you know, making sure the translations are good, adding all the polish where it's missing, doing the tweaking and balancing, and then adding a bunch of new content. So we're like 90% done with the features. And then the rest will be just content and polish and making sure everything feels good. So we're almost there. Like the idea of showing the pedestals, even if you haven't unlocked them yet, it kind of hints at some depth. Yeah, I mean, that could be an option for sure. That could be an option. Maybe I'll do that. I'll see how it looks. Anyway, you can wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto-battler where you can create your own builds and synergies using alchemy. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. And yeah, that's it for the stream. Hope you all have a great day. Thanks for your support, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.